All right, Drake, let's do that hockey, but, football style. So Oklahoma State has been arguably the highest floor program in the Big 12 over the last 15 to 20 years. They're never bad. What's a bad season? They remind me of Utah a little bit, or heck, NC State with Dave Dorn. Just never bad. Not always great. They flash up every now and then, but never bad. Always good. And Mike Gundy, death, taxes, Kyle Whittingham, and Mike Gundy in college football. And they're, of course, in the same conference now. Can Oklahoma State win the Big 12 this year?
Yes. Can they win the Big 12? Yes. Can reasonably West Virginia win the Big 12? Yeah. There are 8 teams where you go, who I struggle to kind of reconcile with it, but it's possible. Now, I don't have Oklahoma State as the first, second, third best team in the conference. I think Utah, Kansas State fit in that mold better. However, we can't deny the fact that Oklahoma State has the best player in the conference. Our All-American, Earl Campbell, Doak Walker Award winner in Ollie Gordon. They have a 7th-year quarterback returning in Alan Bowman, who, to me, when he came from Michigan, I was like, oh, look, they got the Michigan assistant coach, Alan Bowman, who's 25 and is playing for Oklahoma. He's like Brandon Whedon level at this point.
By the way, that's going to pale in comparison to the 8th year of college football Cam Rising might get next year.
Correct. Very correct. And I think Cam Rising's a much better quarterback. But Alan Bowman still had that, just field general, I'm going to be safe and get it done. Reminded me of, a Gary Bohannon at Baylor. You're like, the guy's not going to blow you away, but he's going to make the right plays at the right time. And he might lose to South Alabama 31-6 or whatever it was, but then take you to the Big 12 championship. For me, Oklahoma State returns, I think it's 10 defensive players from the number 86 scoring defense in America. So that's what I struggle to reconcile is their schedule to the amount of returners is certainly immense, but are they quality enough to make Oklahoma State a legitimate contender at the top of the league? If they win the Big 12, I won't be shocked. However, it's going to take a good bit for Oklahoma State to win the conference when your Kansas States are sitting around, your Utahs are as good as they are and have easy schedules, as we've talked about.
I wonder what Oklahoma State's going to feel like. By the way, they have to play Utah and Kansas State in back-to-back weeks, and I mean, good luck. At least one of them's at home, but I mean,
and then you get West Virginia again. You're like, oh, that's still a tough game. That's just not
that's not a great 3-game stretch. But then it softens BYU, Baylor, Arizona State at TCU. Texas Tech, Colorado. Once you get
home, Colorado on the road,
once you get through that stretch, here's what I wonder with Oklahoma State. Legitimately, and though it doesn't directly pertain to the conference title hunt, it indirectly pertains. What is their non-conference slate going to look like? Because they're opening. For those who think Colorado is foolish to schedule North Dakota State. Might I introduce you to the 2-time reigning national FCS champions, the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State? And they are going to roll into Stillwater on August 31st, feeling pretty good about themselves. And it's funny you mentioned that South Alabama game from a season ago. Do you think, Drake, there is going to be a motivational component by the South Dakota State coaching staff with regards to what level of belief they will instill in their players as to what is possible to accomplish on that field? I have seen South Alabama win there. I have seen Central Michigan win there in dramatic fashion long ago in a galaxy far, far away.
They won.
I mean, they did win.
Remember the whole...
yes. I remember the play very, very well. But the fact that they were even in that position, I'm just saying... I'm just saying that's not the easiest of games. Then they play Arkansas. They go at Tulsa. I don't know that the Golden Hurricane will be a massive challenge there, as they will travel. It's like an hour and a half to the east or so. But if they don't go 3-0 in their non-conference slate, this is the indirect contribution that I was talking about with their non-conference games.
Right.
I think there is something to building a culture of belief throughout the season. Now, if they go 3-0, okay, they're in a good spot. Win one against Utah, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, bona fide conference contender. But if they drop that Arkansas game at home, or if they stumble against South Dakota State, I'm not saying they will, but the line is under 10 points, so crazier things have happened in college football. I just wonder how they go forward, because then you've got 2 losses on the schedule pretty early on, and that would take them, I think, out of the playoff hunt, barring a Big 12 championship. But what do you make of those first 5 games? I think it's really, really brutal.
Welcome to the Big 12, where if you're going to try to make sense of anything, we should just kind of throw it out the window. I look back to 2007, Michigan losing to Appalachian State. And I don't know if that's a direct comparison because South Dakota State is so good, and people know they're so good. But that derails Michigan's schedule. I go to Arkansas in 2012. They lost to Louisiana Monroe earlier in the season. It derails their schedule. I go to the Big 12 last year. We had teams lose to Ohio, Miami of Ohio, South Alabama. Like, not good. And for an Iowa State, they still finished in a pretty good spot in the conference, including a win against Kansas State. For Oklahoma State, they went to the Big 12 championship after getting beaten by 4 possessions against South Alabama. In almost every other scenario, it's objective. You agree. Like, right, you got to have a hot start to be able to contend. But for Oklahoma State, I could see them starting 2-2 or even 2-3 and still finishing 9-3, because guess what? That's kind of what Mike Gundy does. He just kind of wins 9 games. You're like, oh, well, fire Mike Gundy.
The standard.
2-3. And then you're like, oh, well, Mike Gundy won again. That is Mike Gundy. And he's got the Ollie Gordons to do it, and a lot of defensive returners from a porous defense to an okay defense. That if they put it together, they're going to be okay. I think Oklahoma State is a 9-3, 8-4 team. And look, if 2 of those are non-conference losses, you're still talking about a squad that could appear in Arlington.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think you look at Ollie Gordon and you say, well, you feel good about the running back position, but I don't know if you noticed, Drake, passing is a big deal in college football nowadays.
I don't like Alan Bowman very much at all.
And look, Bowman, because here's the other thing I think about. What's the best I gave it away. What's the best quarterback conference in the country, Drake? It's the Big 12.
Somehow the Big 12.
Yes, but I mean, clearly, in my mind, for all those out there who think that I don't care for the Big 12, I mean, by any objective measure, this is the best quarterback conference in college football this year. Can you really come away and win it with Alan Bowman? Like, to me, it feels, you know what it feels like? It feels like Utah last year. Utah with Bryson Barnes, right? They somehow scrapped and clawed their way. They beat USC on the road with a late comeback, and they were off to that hot start. And then they played a real team in Oregon, and they got blasted on their home field, and they didn't score a touchdown.
Yeah.
And then things kind of fizzled out from there. They played a really good team on the road in Arizona. Yeah, they got blown out. That's what Oklahoma State feels like to me. Right? Yeah. Great coach, a lot of consistency. But if you don't have the quarterback in this quarterback league, I think it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked by that whatsoever. I just don't. And some Oklahoma State fans are out there going, well, Alan Bowen got us there last year. And yeah, I get it.
The league's better this year. The league is better this year. Let's call a spade a spade.
In the same way that Gary Bohannon, new backup quarterback of BYU, took Baylor to a Big 12 championship where Blake Shapen won them that game. There are years in which the Big 12, from a quarterback standpoint, can be dominated by Gary Bohannon and Blake Shapen. So that's the hope for Alan Bowman. I just don't know if from Shadur Sanders to Cam Rising, these new guys, Noah Fafita, that he can compete. He's worse than all 3 of those, and they are new quarterbacks in this league. Yeah,
and you have Jalen Daniels there in the mix. I struggle to see it. By the way, when I say the Big 12 is better this year, without Texas and Oklahoma, you get weaker, but like the lineup of quarterbacks, it's deeper.
It's deep, yeah.
It is incredibly, incredibly deep. That's Drake Toll, Locked on Big 12. You check him out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts, of course. Drake, enjoy it as always.
Spencer, you look great.
Thank you. That's the kindest thing Drake will say. I have potentially kinder things to say about Fresno State, one-time or potential current, future, past, present, I don't know, Big 12 expansion target. But could they be in the playoff this year? Just don't rule it out. You can't rule it out. And I'll look at their chances coming up next.